Howdy, Jacob here. Today we're going to do an in-depth analysis on British American tobacco. From a previous analysis, we calculated a price that would only need to fall from the current price about 5.6% before it looked very attractive. And so I prefer to, when companies get within 10% of my initial assumptions being a buy price, I like to do an in depth analysis on it. A company as big as British American Tobacco, I feel like I don't need to do as in depth of a review. If I'm looking, a previous study I did was on BG Staffing, and that company was just over $100 million market cap. And so, something like that, I need to do as much research as I possibly can and get very granular within detail to make sure that the company is an attractive buy or not. But a company as both big as British American Tobacco and as consistent. We're talking about a company that has been producing excess free cash flow for so long now. The company was founded in 1902. We have over a century of data here. And yes, some of the notes that I'll be going over will show that this is a company that's going through a lot of change. But with their long history, we can see that I can feel more confident that they can produce some of these assumptions that I'll have set. So let's go over some of the notes quick. So, big thing they've dropped very much recently is due to their a $31.5 billion write down on an acquisition they made a couple years ago. And so this is because of another note that I mean, cigarettes are a declining business. I think that's understood. But um, the desire of the company, British American Tobacco, is to have half of their revenue come from non combustibles by 2035. In the most recent annual report, 83% of sales were coming from combustibles. And so a big part of this write off is saying that their smoking portion of that company in particular is going to be written off, and all of the companies or all of the acquisitions, pretty much everything under BTI is they're trying to window out the smoking aspect to where half of their revenue is going to be coming from non-combustibles in by the year 2035. So we can see that that's a big change to the company. And you'll see in my assumptions where I had those changes. And the last thing I want to say before showing my new assumptions is that it's a London based company. It's called British American Tobacco. So that could be understood. And they're just in the process of changing from combustibles to where you have smoke inhalation products to smoke free ones. And so there's a few players in this game. Three big ones that I can think of are British American Tobacco, Philip Morris, and Altria. And so again, if we start to see some of these assumptions, initially I had 1% revenue growth, 24 and 34% margins, buybacks of 0.5%, a 9 PE, and a 15 discount rate. For me, I think because smoking is a declining business, I would think that um, we're going to see, maybe upper single digit declines here, maybe in like the 5 to 9, -5 to -9 range. And, but on the other hand, we see that the non combustible side has a lot of growth potential, but is way smaller than the current smoking portion of revenue and earnings and such. I didn't write this as a note for some reason, but the goal was to be by 2020 by the end of 2024 for the non-combustibles to be a break-even profit company and at least break even or make money, obviously. And they did that uh, already in the most recent. the most recent report. And so they're ahead of schedule with their non-combustibles being a profit-inducing uh, portion of their business. And so for me, I feel like I could have knocked the earnings margin and free cash flow margin down a bit, but they've just been so consistent. And for me, this is over a 7-year period. And so we're saying that their smoking is currently 83%. They want to get down to 50% by 2035. I'm doing this report or doing this analysis through about 2031. And so their smoking is still going to be a big portion of their revenue, likely, and their earnings and such. And so I feel pretty confident with the 24 and 34 since those are already on the lower end of their historical margins. I feel good about this 0.05% share buybacks just because they have so much free cash flow. And again, a normal company at minus 1% a year, I might put at a 9P, but because this is one of those quote unquote sin stocks where it just has something bad against the name to where the average person might not want to buy a company that supports smoking. Obviously, they're trying to get to a smokeless free, but that doesn't mean it's still not bad for the body. And so, a company like this, and Altria and Philip Morris, I feel like deserve even more conservatism on the terminal P and price free cash flow because individuals are skeptical to buy a company that is one of those sin stocks. And so I think if I we were initially saying it's within 6% of a buy price, and now I'm also going to change the um, actually my margins are the same, so I'll keep this the same where they increase the dividend at 1% a year. I think that's still reasonable since their payout, they make so much money in free cash flow. We have over $12 billion on average, likely on average over the last 5 years, and they're paying out $6 billion. And so I think as they buy back shares, they can afford $6 billion in paid out, which would increase their earnings per share. So that's why I have a 1% earnings here, a 1% increase on dividends. So it's still a very attractive company in the aspect of numbers and in the aspect of reviewing what the business actually does. Obviously, it is a sand stock, so keep that in mind. If you don't want to invest in a company that sells tobacco products, it's your everything is on your perspective. So don't ever buy anything because I would think it's a buy or anyone else. You have to do your own research, and so I hope this aided in your research process. But for me right now, I'm still waiting for it to go down quite a bit before I would want to put something into this. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the in-depth video on British American tobacco.